and give up all the wild times, and jump into the wildfire, just to have one more wild night. When you give me this high, I could wait a lifetime just to have one more wild night.
Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Morning Coffee. My name is Rick Alexander, and we have 2 more shows on this channel. So if you are interested in continuously listening to the podcast, then search for Morning Coffee with Rick Alexander. Look for the new show art, subscribe to the show, and then do me the biggest solid and leave me a 5-star review so that I can grow the charts with that new show as we start over and rebuild the following. If you decide to take that journey with us, I of course will love to have you. If you don't, it's been real and I appreciate you listening anyway. God, I was thinking, how do I end, 480 plus shows on this channel? It's like, as I think about it, I was thinking about the pivot. I was really excited, and then a part of me just sort of sunk. I was like, man, I've been working on this from the beginning with our co-hosts when it was Lionheart Radio with Memo Ochoa and Claudia Challoner, and they were the co-hosts, and they also helped me run my supplement company. It's just really wild to see the evolution of the show, the evolution of me and both of them, honestly, watching them pursue their own dreams in life. It's been such an incredible opportunity. And if you are going to start a podcast, I would say you should do it, because the people that I've met, the lessons that I've learned, the chance to synthesize my own knowledge, it's been an incredible opportunity. Today, I wanted to redo what is my favorite script that I've ever done on Morning Coffee, and it's about the show Lucifer. And most of you, if you've been listening to the show for over a year, you've probably heard this one. I can't remember when it first originally aired. I don't believe that this was our most listened to show, but it was certainly like one of my favorites. It's been such a profound thing in my own life, so we'll get into it. It's called Lucifer. I started off with a quote saying, "Do just once what others say you can't do, and you will never pay attention to their limitations again." And that quote was by James Cook. Have you ever seen the show Lucifer? So for the record, it's got a ridiculous premise. Essentially, the devil has returned to Earth after being sentenced to an eternity of running hell, and he decides to stay in LA and live out life there. Well, actually, that part probably makes more sense than I'm giving it credit for. But what I wanted to talk about today is the way that the show actually portrays hell. Basically, when someone dies, if they go to hell, they relive the worst experience of their life over and over for eternity. Often, it's a scenario where they acted malevolently or blamed themselves. For example, maybe they found themselves in a situation with the chance to help someone and they didn't for selfish reasons. In one example, a professor found himself in a car accident, and him and a student were trapped in a burning car. Acting out of instinct, the professor grabbed his life's work and ran, leaving the kid who was trapped to die in the car. When that same professor dies and goes to hell later in the show, they show him reliving that exact scenario over and over on repeat. Sounds like hell to me. What's interesting is what the show alludes to over time. What you find out is that every person in hell has put themselves there by their own volition. Their conscience won't allow them to actually leave, even though they're free to at any time. They allude to the fact that although billions of people are free to leave hell, not a single one of them does. Their minds never allow them to leave the hell that they're living in, and so they live a continued and repeated cycle of the same scenario. I'm going to say that one more time for effect. Their minds never allow them to leave the hell that they're living in, and so they continue to repeat the same scenario. What struck me about this show is that for all of its ridiculous plotline, that has got to be the most profoundly accurate representation of our lives that I've ever heard. We have these stories in our head about what we deserve, and then we spend the rest of our lives living out the same loop, feeling as though we are a victim of the circumstance. And even if that situation is pure hell, we keep ourselves there, never realizing that the door isn't locked. You probably feel there are many areas in your life that you can't change right now, when in fact, you're just experiencing the limits of your programming and not your capabilities. I've done a ton of shows based on programming and the way that we perceive scenarios when we're growing up, specifically when we're developing. But I think regardless of how you were raised, What you are told about yourself and your capabilities or anything else, you just have to realize at some point that you are in your own way. The cage isn't locked. It might have been when you were young. You might have been in scenarios that limited your mobility and what you can do, but now in 2019, that mobility is limited by one thing, and that is your ability to shift your perspective. What I think is worth highlighting and what the show illustrates is that the walls that we put up in our mind are legitimately just as real as any physical wall that we might be up against in life. When your belief system about something is set in stone, so aren't your options, plain and simple. And so you should very seriously explore your beliefs about all of the areas in your life that you feel like you might be coming up short. For lots of us, it's the way we feel about money. For others, it's what they believe about their quality of life, and so they accept maybe less than they should. There are so many ways that all of our beliefs wall us in to a less than ideal scenario. Parts of life often feel like they're off limits to us, when in fact, that is a reflection of what we've been told and what we've witnessed as true, and not what we are actually capable of. Truth, I put in parentheses there. The most blatant example of this that I often use with clients is one of an Olympic athlete. If you grow up with your parents who are Olympic athletes, then the Olympics are something that penetrate your thoughts as possible for the future. For the 99% of the rest of us, it isn't even a remote possibility. While recognizing how much of that scenario is actually genetically based, we should also come to appreciate how many people are subjugating themselves and not allowing themselves to dream because of what they've perceived as possible. The point here isn't about how many of us could be Olympic athletes, because I'm not speaking in technical terms, but more broadly speaking, how many of us aren't pursuing our calling based on this same logic? How many books aren't being written? How many businesses aren't being started? And how many adventures aren't being had? Not because we aren't capable of producing them or going on them, but because we don't personally feel worthy of those things. Getting back to our original scenario, what life aren't you getting to live because you are perpetually living in loops based on what you think you deserve? We date different versions of the same person. We start and abandon projects. We live in constant drama, all the while believing all of this is the way that life works. In order to get around this, you have to change your thinking, not about the scenario you are in, but about the way this entire thing works in general. Now, I'm not naive enough to dole out advice such as this, change your thinking, change your life, because I know how extremely difficult that is. But honestly, is there anything more important than that? You don't deserve to be in hell, but to be honest, you also don't deserve to live in mediocrity. You deserve the things that you want, but often that starts with identifying the very limited belief that you have around what you think that you can't achieve. And in truth, if there are areas of your life that aren't what you want them to be, and you don't believe that you have a limited belief around that thing, then you'll spend the rest of this life for sure living in the same hellish feedback loop as the billions that have come before, all along, never realizing that the door isn't, nor was it ever, locked. That is Lucifer. I love you guys. I hope you have an amazing Thursday. We'll chat for the final episode of Morning Coffee on this channel tomorrow.
I don't know how to speak. So many versions of me. I've taken the foolish and buried the blind. Asked for the truth, been pushed back in life, and I can't stand still. Maybe I'm broken and maybe I'm wrong. Man, we don't care about it anymore. Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm tall. I can't see beyond today. I can't see beyond today. Tell me there's something beyond today. I need to believe. I try to give back, give up. And I'm losing forgiveness for what I've done. So act like you're weary, act like you're tough. Put up your walls and just pretend it's enough. But you can't stand still. Maybe I'm broken and maybe I'm wrong. Man, we don't cry about it anymore. Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm torn. I can't see beyond today. I can't see beyond today. You tell me there's something beyond today. I need to believe. Yeah. And if the devil wants to hold me down, she'll leave without my blackened soul. And I won't be holding on, and nobody will hold me down. Redemption's for the lost, you said. And you told me you lied. Oh, I need to know if tomorrow comes when you lie. 'Cause I can't see beyond today. I can't see beyond today. Tell me there's something beyond today. Yeah, I need to believe. Tell me there's something that I need to believe. To